My name is Linette Caroselli, and I am a proud educator. I have been a teacher for over 25 years. I have been an administrator for over 4.5 years, close to 30 years in education, K through 12. And I'm very excited to be here to talk about education. I'm also the president and CEO of the Stubborn Pearls Foundation Incorporated, located in Cary, North Carolina.
What is it that made you decide to go into education?
Well, when I decided to go into education, I originally went to school to be a TV journalist, and that wasn't what I thought it was going to be. I became pregnant with my first child and had to figure some things in life out where I had to pivot. And I met a group of educators at a cookout who realized that my talents and strength was in English, and they recommended I go into education with me about to have a baby and English being a strong background, as well as social studies and I loved history, that they'll be perfect with me. So they told me to try it, and what could go wrong? If I don't like it, I could always do something else. So my first assignment was a substitute job at East Orange, New Jersey, and I still remember the recruiter saying to me, "The kids will let you know as soon as you walk in if this is going to be the job for you or not." And she wasn't wrong about that.
Were you already involved in organizations?
Yeah,
Okay.
I was at Sigma Gamma Rho about 4 years before I became a teacher.
Because I know a little bit about Sigma Gamma Rho and the founders. Did that have any bearing on your decision to become an educator as well, or was it just a coincidence?
It was both. It was coincidence. It made the decision easier for me to come into education. I had always admired the founders for what they had accomplished and their legacy, and I didn't see it. I saw it as following their footsteps, honoring them going into education, that it was just natural to do that. As a coincidence, I had joined this organization that had to be founded by teachers, and now it's gone into the profession.
Many of the members are educators. How did this impact you and your experience?
It impacted me because it gave me a very strong network of support. So if I was struggling with something, I can make that phone call and didn't have to be in my chapter. It could be anywhere in the country. So that was a huge help to be able to have that network of support. My second teaching assignment was in Paterson, New Jersey, and I happened to be a SOAR that worked at the district. So she was a very important part of my journey and giving me advice and letting me know, particularly about special education, because she was a special education teacher, and I didn't know anything about that. I didn't go to school to be a teacher. So I went through, at that time, they had what was the alternative route program. So came to teaching that way. So she was a very big help with the special education piece and helping me understand why things looked the way they did, strategies, what worked, what didn't work, and how to approach children in that manner. And that it didn't matter whether it was special education or general ed. She gave me tips on how to connect with kids, and that has been a very important part of my secret to success, because you have to build relationships first.
Understood. What would you say to someone who is possibly being introduced to education in the same way that you were and coming an alternative route? Because it's 2025, and when you came in, that was some years ago. What advisement would you give them this year?
Keep up with the trends, know what your kids like, know what is going on in their world, what is their background. You have to make that connection. And if you don't know, you can research that, because if you could connect to them, they are yours. Kids will like you no matter what, but they want to be respected. They want to know that they could trust you, and they want to know that you're going to listen to them. So if you do that, you're golden pretty much, because that's what kids need. I would also suggest that you make friends with the janitor, the secretary, because that's who really runs the school. And we think it's the principal. Yeah, they run the day-to-day operations, but when you get down to the nitty-gritty, those are the two people who are very integral to your school. Also, I would recommend that you see the kids as people and you let them see you as a person. Sometimes as teachers, especially when we're new, we go in with this, you gotta listen to me and I make the rules, and that's not always what you need. You don't need to yell. You don't need to scream. You don't need to show who's in control. They know who's in control. If you show respect, they're gonna get respect. And I know as the adults, often we to be the opposite way, but we have to give them their respect too. Kids have a voice and they want to be heard. And once they are heard, they will respect you because they know you will listen to them.
I think I heard yesterday, or maybe the day before yesterday, you mentioned something about the in-classroom management being trial by fire. Can you tell me about that?
Sure. Classroom management, my opinion, is not something that's taught necessarily in the book. You can get some tips and strategies, of course, but the implementation is the trial and fire. What works for one educator may not work for the other. It depends on the kids, their relationship, their environment, about what works, the background of the kids, their foundation, their value system, and yours. What type of leader are you? Are you authoritative? Are you a dictator? Are you just someone who lets the kids decide what they want to do and you compromise in between? You guys set up the rules together, or are you going to do it? So all that comes into play, and it becomes different with each group of kids that you have in a year. You learn to change a couple of things. You may have to add a couple of things. You may not need something. So you live and you learn about what works for you.
Tell me, how did you find yourself here?
Well, I found myself as the president of the organization. I came to the Seven Pearls initially as a life member, as a supporter, and the project of the headquarters was something that I was involved in from the beginning with Christine E. Trigg, who was the first president. She was one of my mentors as an undergraduate and as a graduate. And we were close. She mentored me. And as we were going through the process, as an undergrad, I didn't understand everything. As a new grad, I didn't understand everything because I never owned any property, much a house. I even had my own apartment. So I didn't understand. So she would answer those questions for me so I could understand. And she never made me feel like I was dumb about it. It was the way she explained it that was so simplified that I got it. So we would have those conversations so I could understand what was going on. Once she passed, I felt like it was my duty to carry on because that's what she would have wanted me to do as her mentee. So I stuck with it. I became secretary of the organization, and then I became president.
Interesting. I like that. So you have a deep commitment to keeping promises and being involved in philanthropic work and being committed to the school and being committed to students. How has your time here at Seven Pearls been able to tie all of that together for you?
It's very important to keep a balance in whatever you're doing, work, family, yourself, keeping that time for you, making sure your mental health is good, making sure your health is good. So that's a lesson that I learned very recently. You have to learn how to say no, and you just keep things in balance. You have to know when you got time for something and when you don't have time for something. So that's very important. So I just have a balance with everything that's going on in my life. The foundation is important to me, but it has its time and its place.
Yeah, balance is a big deal. We aren't necessarily taught as girls to prioritize self and try to find an equal space in our life for all the things in our lives. So what would you say to educators about the balancing act of balancing all the acts of the life?
Don't take your work home with you. Leave it there. It'll be there for you when you come back. Because guess what? If something was to happen to you, and I've seen it happen, God forbid you pass, they're going to replace you in 48 hours. Your job is going to be posted. Don't kill yourself. Do what you can within those allotted hours that you have. There are people who put in the extra time, and if you have it, great. But if you have family and you have children, they need you too. Sometimes as teachers, we put our students before our own families. And that's just something we do because of care. It's not that we don't care about our own kids, we do. But when you have that many kids depending on you, it's a little different because they do depend on you. You make their day. If you're a good teacher, you make their day. They come into school not just to learn, but you make them want to learn. They look forward to what you have to say. What are you going to do today? I dress up for my kids. I'm known, I'll put different wigs on for my characters. I change my clothes, and we do Treasure Island. I've been known to put a pirate hat on with my sword and my eye patch, and I give them their little pirate hats and their little treasure box for their jewels. They look forward to things like that. And I taught 8th grade. They love stuff like that. So they look forward to coming to school. So we're there for that. And just understanding what your role is. You are a jack of all trades. You wear every hat. You are not just a teacher, you are their mentor. You might be their mama, you might be their daddy, your auntie, your grandma. I'm at that stage of life. They look up to you, and every little thing you do, they're watching. Down to the color of your nails, they're watching because they want to imitate you. I believe kids spend more time with us than they do at home. And they see us, if their parents are working 2-3 jobs, and often, especially if you're in a Title I school, that may be the case because parents are just trying to keep their families together. They're not neglecting their kids. They're just trying to survive out here. So they may have 2-3 jobs sometimes, just trying to make ends meet. And if that's the case, the children are in essence not alone. It's not that they don't have parents, but they may sometimes feel like they're alone, or mommy doesn't have time for me, daddy doesn't have time for me. So that's where we step in and we fill that void for them. That's that auntie, that's that mommy piece where you're like their second parent. They know who their parents are, but like I said, you're filling that void for them. I see kids who struggle with that piece. You got to know their background. If something is going on in that world, it's important that you make that connection. Kids are prone to violence just because of what they're seeing and exposed to in daily life. It's hard to teach Johnny how to read when his parent got arrested last night. He's not thinking about all that. He's thinking about, is my daddy okay? If mommy's in the hospital, I saw this a lot during COVID. It was a lot going on. We saw things. COVID introduced us to kids' world that we had no idea what's going on, because they'll be in their house. And we saw things that we necessarily didn't want to see. But we saw things that was like, oh my God. We had, kids that were homeless. They learned from McDonald's parking lot, or they're in their car. And we got to see that. Those moments that they did turn camera on, or parents fussing at them for trivial things. So these kids had their own little world going on, and then they come to school, and if we're not loving and compassionate and giving them the time of day, that was another obstacle that they had to come. So they came to school. If you were that teacher, this is where I found love. This is where I can eat. Here's where I could be myself. And we saw that. So sometimes we don't know that kids are raising themselves sometimes. I've seen that a lot in communities that I've taught, and where parents have to leave state to go work, and the kids are raising themselves. So we would do wellness checks on some kids, and if they need something to eat, you got it. If you needed clothes washed, wash your clothes. If you didn't have water, the water got turned off because parents couldn't pay the bill. You come to school, take a shower. Those are things that are important in addition to learning your ABCs and 1, 2, 3s.
Is this something that I said that you did not go to school to become a teacher, but from what you've seen, your experience as an educator, how much of this is taught to those who do go to school for education, to land in the classroom?
I think it depends on the professor that you have and their experiences. If they've been exposed to certain things, they're going to share that. But if they haven't had those experiences, how can they share?
True. So what would you suggest in terms of curriculum for those entering into school, early and later on in life to become an educator? What are some of the topics that you would have them to study, have a better shot at being a best educator?
Classroom management is one. We do have that, but something I would say more real with those situations where you had that challenge. You may have that student who challenges you. How to deal with that, how to not let it get under your skin, because I have to learn that the kids aren't mad at you. Something happened in that course of the day that set them off, or something's going on at home that may have set them off. So you were just in the way, you're the target at the moment, but they don't mean any harm. And once you get past that, and you find out what's going on, then you're like, oh, okay, now I can assist you and teach you how to navigate that issue. Also, cultural competence is huge. As an administrator, seeing teachers who didn't always understand the children that were in their charge because they didn't have those experiences. So when children did certain behaviors or said certain things, they took it a certain way. And I'm like, no, that's not what they meant. No, that's not what it is. This is what it is. And having them understand how to connect with these children. I read when I was going to my alternate program, there was a book called Other People's Children. And I remember that book, and I was like, see, this is somebody, the author, understands that there's children are the same. They were water country, they and suburban, everything. The kids are kids. They're gonna do things. But it's our culture that makes us different and sets us apart. And we have to understand those cultures, from our Vietnamese kids that are coming in as immigrants to our Mexican American kids, just even regionally from the East Coast now living in the West Coast. I had to adapt and learn how to deal with my kids in Arizona. There was things that I would say that they didn't understand and took literally. So I had to learn that, like, no, honey, let me help you. And things that they would say, I'm like, what? Wait a minute. So I had to learn those things. So I would like to see a real classroom management class with different scenarios that we as teachers face on a daily basis, and cultural competency being taught.
Now, I was going to ask you about the shift from Northeast to where you are now in Arizona. And so now you've touched on that. So that gives me permission to go ahead and dig a little deeper into that, because I know you from the Northeastern region, right? And New York, New Jersey has a certain kind of vibe, certain kind of flavor. So now you go from the Northeast region over across the way to where are you in Arizona?
I'm in the Phoenix area.
Okay, so you're in Phoenix. So switch from New York, New Jersey to Phoenix. Just how drastic was that for you?
It was a big one. Arizona is more laid back, where the East Coast, we're very color prim, proper. The culture is completely different. It's fast-paced. Where I am now, they take their time with everything. And I had to get used to that. Just the way they dressed, from the kids to the teachers, I had to get used to it. I stand out when I go to work because I look just like them. And that's just something that's embedded in me. When I first started teaching, we had to wear business attire because we always told to give the kids our best. Where I am now, it's a little bit more laid back. Jeans, we couldn't wear jeans unless it was a field trip, and that wasn't until the end of the year. Now they wear jeans every day. Sandals, we couldn't even do that. So it was strange to me at first, but I've gotten a little used to it, but it still boggles the mind sometimes. And then how laid back the kids are, shorts, and they just very laid back about their whole attitude towards life. And sometimes I have a time with remember where I am, so I can't get on the hicks about it because that's their culture. I have mine and they have theirs, so I gotta respect it. And sometimes we just talk, we have conversation about what's going on. I live in Maricopa, Arizona. It's a growing city. Everything in that town, nothing's more than, let's say, 50 years old. And even though it's been here for a while, it's just growing. So we're moving in from various parts of the country that are coming in and looking for that familiarity of someone that gets them, that understands them. So if you're from a small city or small town, someone from New York or Chicago or Wisconsin, that's foreign to you. And these kids, they come with their stuff. And first of all, they come in new schools, they got to be being dead. No, just be some. And I told them that just be yourself. You don't have to put on any airs. You don't have to prove anything to anybody. Everybody's going to like people anyway. Just be you. That's it. So that was an adaptation for me.
I hear your New York, New Jersey accent. Here you are talking about Phoenix, Arizona. So, I was just wondering how was that for you? Tell me, as president of Seven Pearls Foundation, you're managing the foundation. You are working as an administrator in Phoenix, Arizona, and that's two organizations there, right? Fitly joined, right? To saying One Sigma.
Right.
How in the world, now I know that you mentioned about the time and the balancing, but I just need to get better clarity. How do you navigate, because that's a lot, being a part of two organizations, which is really, basically the One Sigma, and all your students, adopted sons and daughters at the school. What is your day-to-day like in managing all of that, being in Sigma Gamma Rho and being president of Seven Pearls and being an administrator at your school in Phoenix while being the daytime mom to all these children? What is that like for you?
I'm also the bachelor's of my chapter, so it can get a little bit much at times. That's when I got to put the brakes on and go, no, I can't do that right now. And I just had to have this conversation with myself, like, I don't mean any harm, but I can't do that. I have to say that to them now. So my job is my job because that's what pays me. That's my livelihood. So I give my time to that, but it has this time as well. My contracted time, you got to turn it off at some time. There are days where education is one of those jobs that, it is 24 hours because your brain is constantly going about, okay, I got to do this, and Johnny needs this, and Linda, she had this issue, and I got to help her with that, and this teacher, she's struggling with this part, and I'm going to help her do this lesson today. So those things are going on. So it's not 100% turn off, but you got to turn it off at least 50%, because now once I get home, my thing is I pull into that garage. That's my family's time. That's my son. That's my daughter. I got to focus on what they have going on. Make sure they're straight. If they need me, because as I mentioned before, sometimes they put other people's kids in front of ours. It's not a bad thing all the time, but sometimes your kids might feel a certain way about that. So you just have to have that balance. So I make sure my family time is family time. Then there's my chapter time, and then foundation time. Then there's Sigma time. So everything has to have its day, and I literally have to do that And I put everything in my phone because if I don't, it doesn't exist. So I have my days where I'm like, okay, this is chapter meeting time. I know what my duties are for this and what's the expectation of what we need for this chapter meeting. So I'll get that prepared. That takes that time. Okay, now I gotta move on to the next thing. Oh, I need a break. I gotta go take a nap. I wanna watch TV. So you gotta make the little things like that. I gotta eat. There, sometimes as an administrator, you'll forget to eat. And you don't realize the y'all like, I didn't eat today. And it happens to drink some water. That, like, I had to start carrying the little water jug around because it's not worth forgetting to drink water. You'll have your coffee in the afternoon, and it will take me all day to drink 1 cup of coffee, depending on what kind of day you're having. So you have to schedule. Well, there's no schedule. There's no such thing as schedule when you're in this position. It doesn't exist. You do what you can with what you have when you can, but you got to turn it off at least 50% so that you can concentrate and focus on your family and your own quality time. You have to do that to survive. The way you burn yourself out and you're no good to anybody like that, and you start snapping at the kids for little stuff that shouldn't be bothering you. That's because you didn't take time to rest and have that balance. So that's how I know when people are stressed out. Yeah, you need a break. So I will come in and relieve teachers. Go take a break. I'm gonna teach your class. And they go, what? Go take a break. Go to the break room. I got it. Giving them something like that. Something as simple as go to the bathroom. That's easy. Sometimes we don't get to go to the bathroom because everyone's busy. And they call and somebody might not show up for an hour. Teachers, we got some kidneys on us. So it's those little things that make a difference when you're an administrator, that you give the teachers that they appreciate. And the kids do too, because they can see the other face. You might give them a different way to do something that may not have occurred. I've seen principals come and teach classes. I miss the classroom, so I go back and I do that sometimes. And it's a little weird, but you gotta keep the juices going. You can't get rusty. Because you can't administer like that. You gotta understand what your teachers are going through because they're in the trenches.
If there was one request that you could make, if you just had the one opportunity to make one request to the powers that be in the local school board anywhere here in America, on behalf of the classroom teacher, what would that be?
Give teachers their planning time. Everything doesn't have to be a meeting. Some things can be said in the email. They don't need to be sitting up in these meetings all day. Sometimes they just want to be in the classroom doing their thing because they do the grading and the planning. That's a lot of work. It's not 1, 2, 3 and done. It takes thought because you can't. It's not cookie cutter. You gotta teachers, and sometimes if you're not in a profession, you don't realize it. But we have 30 kids in our class, and each of those kids learn differently. So I got them, when I do my teaching and my lesson, I had to think about all 30 of those kids and how to learn, because my job is to get across to all of them. I'm not supposed to leave anybody behind. And sometimes they fall short with that. So I would ask that request. Another request I would make, if I had unlimited funding, teachers shouldn't be paying for extra stuff. That is so ridiculous to me. Bulletin boards. I was talking about it today with somebody, another teacher. Yeah, the teachers got to change their bulletin boards every month. Who's paying for that? They are. The schools are supplying it. There are some schools that won't let you use shortboard stuff. You got to make everything by hand. What if that is not my skill? That was never my skill. And I used to freak out because I'm like, I don't know how to draw. I don't know how to measure. I could cut something, yeah. I could print something, yeah. I could sit in front of the computer and design something and put it together, but that's not my thing. So to make those crazy requests of our teachers, they shouldn't be buying pencils for their class. Who's paying for that? They are.